His current talk, which I've read, is entitled Settling History in the Silwan State, Emblems and Public Secrets in Occupied East Jerusalem, which is there for you to read as well.
The public secret is created by a process of masking and sometimes selective unmasking, which can come to create an effect which Taussig describes like this. It is the skin of the secret that vibrates with a sacred light, intimation of the public secret within. It's a very kind of provocative way of putting it, but I find it a useful metaphor nonetheless. The public secret within is what I would like to speak about today, because I argue in the longer paper that the archaeology of the Bible and the possible identification of the city of David site in East Jerusalem has come to act as such a mask. So I guess if I'm bringing something to this conversation, I'm really talking about questions of taboo and totems and sanctity, which Taussig reads from Durkheim. Here I won't have time to get into the performative effects of archaeological identifications with biblical references, something I spend more time on in the full manuscript. Instead, the focus here is the public secret within, which you are supposed to perceive and also not perceive, the history of Israeli settlement in occupied East Jerusalem. Indeed, I'd go so far to suggest that this public secrecy is something that is widely produced with varying degrees of success in the North Atlantic contest over the Israeli state. And here's maybe where I have something in conversation with my colleague, because I also find, just as a kind of resident citizen of Canada, someone who grew up here, that the settler colonial history of settlement is also kind of public secret in the Canadian context. This then, in a nutshell, is the argument of my paper. Let me now go through some examples and in fact initiate you quickly into a secret history. In the last 25 years, much of the excavations carried out on the City of David archaeological site have been done with the cooperation of or directly paid by a settler organization called El-Ad, a Hebrew acronym for Towards the City of David. Since the mid-1980s, El-Ad has been using legal mechanisms to help expropriate land from Palestinian residents around the archaeology site in a neighborhood just south of Jerusalem's old city called Silwan. At that point, Efrat rehearsed a very short version of Be'eri's narrative about the foundation of El-Ad settlement during the First Intifada. And for 60 years, no one Jewish came to the area. Burial caves, Yemenis, and now only Arabs. I want to tell you that during the First Intifada period, even soldiers were scared to enter here. Used to need 2 jeeps at once to enter, really scared because of the stones and because of what there was here. And David el-Be'eri decided one day that he builds Jerusalem, that he builds the city of David, and he returned to the heritage. Efrat's narrative stressed the claim that El-Ad made possible not only Jewish settlement, but also brought order to a supposedly dangerous area, enabling excavations and touring. Burial caves, Yemenis, and now only Arabs, in one phrase, diagrams the periodization that El-Ad seeks to establish. Burial caves represent the ancient past, Yemenis represent the return of Jews from exile, Arabs from the outside and the Intifada represent the negation of that return, and El-Ad in the form of Be'eri means the return of Jewish settlement. The return, that is, of the state of Israel. The return described on Efrat's tour touches upon the secret history by which El-Ad came to possess properties in Silwan, but without the details. That history is discussed explicitly, but only circumspectly, and thus the audience too is initiated into how to speak about it. No mention of Be'eri's elaborate tale of producing an intelligence file, no mention of court cases. Instead, Efrat directed her audience's attention to identifications, both ancient and recent, to the state emblem in the making that indexes both state authority and marks its secrets. Efrat's narrative, typical for El-Ad, shows how the history of settlement is both brought up on tour and remains conspicuously secret. The tours of the material remains, ostensibly the reason that tourists and pilgrims go to visit the City of David archaeological site, are at once a secret Bible made manifest, and at the same time the mask that, quote, vibrates with a sacred light, intimation of the public secret within. Thank you very much.